As a service designer for the city, the main purpose of our work is to bring different voices to the table.
We are a team within the Mayor's Office for Economic Opportunity, and we're really focused on making government systems, services, policies more community-centered. And design by community is one of the major ways that we're trying to flip the script of what government traditionally is.
Design by community is really the city putting its money where its mouth is, in that it wants community to define the desires and the outputs of city funding.
So traditionally in government, things are very top down, very the mayor demands something and the people receive. But with the Design by Community program, we're really focused on flipping that script, giving communities and giving folks representation and a say in how the money is spent and where things go.
I've always been community-minded because I think that my community is me. So I remember one day complaining about the garbage on the sidewalk when I walk from the Long Island Railroad. And I'm like, when are they gonna clean it up? And I'm like, oh, nobody's coming to clean it up. You have to clean it up, right? So I think that it's an extension of your community because you want the best for your community. So you're gonna go out and do things. So with Design by Community, we wrote a grant, and that grant allowed us we won, I think in the entire city, the second phase of this grant from the Mayor's Office, the Mayor's Fund. And what that grant does is it supports us to the third approach to digital access, which is to create a makerspace. As the person that does strategy for STEAM and STEM at Phipps Neighborhoods, a makerspace is a very impactful offering to the community and to the students because it extends the learning, right? So for example, you may learn how to 3D design in Tinkercad, but are you able to actually print on a 3D printer to see the physical remnants of your digital creation? And so the Makerspace is an extension of that. So this grant helps us to build out, design one, and build out the Makerspace. You and the fellows will leave a recommendation for what we will do with that Makerspace. What courses will we offer? So what that looks like is now us doing the lifting of vetting someone who would be in that Makerspace, who would be able to be patient and help others and the multi-generational folks to help them to utilize the Makerspace. So things like that go on behind the scenes.
All right. So I'll go with adults, and then Debbie, you will go with.
Figuring out that temperament so that everyone feels respected, right? So I'm always going to come to that respected space, and then I think you don't go wrong when you do that.
So I grew up in the Bronx for the first formative years of my life. And when I could think back to that beginning time, I don't really remember too much technology unless it was introduced maybe in school, depending on the school that you went to, and in your household, if you were a youth that was afforded a computer or something at home, I would say. And then when I went to North Carolina, it definitely was no real technology happening. I would say that, and that's in the late 80s, early 90s. That was the experience, I would say, in like it was similar to my same experience of the Bronx.
How you felt when you came through here, or what you felt we did for you, if you want to, right? And then it's like,
so currently I work at Phipps Neighborhoods. So I work now as a program director of resident services. So we pretty much provide social services to residents that live within Phipps houses. And it's in one of the poorest congressional districts in the Bronx. So families over there are plagued with so many disparities. And when we went through the pandemic, it really showed the need to have like strong leaders. So the role that I have as a director of resident services is just to create opportunities for community, do partnerships, be a part of what we are now right here with, helping with the technology gap in the Bronx. We're hoping that we can kind of close it, get some more individuals involved so that they can be having upward mobility, so that they can see, possibilities for themselves, and then more importantly for the youth, right, for their families, so that generational wealth could get created.
so one of the things that our research is, how do we create digital tools for the community use, right? And we're not gonna tell y'all what those tools are.
Okay, now-
Y'all gonna tell us what the tools are
What you
that
need.
you wanna see.
So I tell all the senior citizens, go to Google, and Google will explain, to see the big G letter on your phone or on your computer, your tablet, go there, they will teach you. I had to teach myself, I couldn't depend on my children. So if you really truly want to learn, there's always a way. That's how I learned it, and I'm going to continue to learn it that way. But if I can get more help, I will reach out.
Get it back and open back up. Me too. So like my password is different, something like that. So this group really will enhance my intelligence on how to deal with
technology is very bad.
the computers in the system.
Thank you.
The biggest problem. Even when I started getting food here, when they send me
The text.
it took me a long time before I was able to reply,
Sometimes with my email, basically that's it.
Okay.
I can't reply.
Thank you.
And at any opportunity and every opportunity I get, I kind of speak to what we hopefully are going to create in the Makerspace that can be inclusive for all, multi-generational, right? And then as well as it could be trickled down to intergenerational, so that we are tapping in with the children. So I think that what led me to do this kind of work is like growing up in poverty, right? So growing up in the urban community and NYCHA and different things like that, you kind of see what the disadvantages are for individuals plagued with that type of living. So I think that potentially was like an earlier segue for me when I became an adult.
Research sometimes? Do you Google things sometimes?
Sometimes, not all the time.
Not all the time?
I work with a lot of elderly people, so I'm always constantly fixing apps or signing emails and stuff like that. So I don't think it is something I figured I would be doing, but it kind of doesn't really feel like work or anything. It's a natural feeling, and I feel like when I wasn't there physically, I was able to make up for digitally. So as far as synthesizing information, digitizing information, and just staying on top of those things, I guess it kind of balanced out. But I really wanted to be more hands-on overall. But I do feel like we all came together and were able to come to a common goal and just work on something that we all want to see develop.
After getting like educated, I could have went to different paths, but this was the most, I guess, meaningful. I would say, I'm not even going to say yes, I know it's the most meaningful, it's the most impactful, and it's why, it's my why of community work.
My experience growing up with technology was, so the way I explain it is like, I grew up in like the golden period where it's like, I didn't necessarily have access to technology like freely, because of course, you know, single parent household, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I saw how technology, like accessibility to technology was being widely adapted and how it became like ubiquitous amongst the world. And so I started gaining more and more access to technology, I think coming into like middle school primarily.
I remember with the first PC, we left it on for like several months, never turned it off. Until this one day, someone came over to our house and was like, this is so slow, you need to restart this. And I was like, actually no, that's not what happened. What happened was we saw this button and pressed it and was like, let's see what happens, you know? And so it went off, of course, and we didn't turn it back on until several days later. We realized, like, let's press it again. And then it turned on, we're like, wow. So like little things like that, like sure we did like, you know, learning how to type, you know, phonics, star, a whole bunch of other like reading programs, but just like even turning on, knowing like maintenance, you know, that's kind of like just by, you know, trial and error, mostly. So with this opportunity, I saw on social media, and where I work at a creative arts center right now, and it's like multi-generational, you will say. A lot of people in different positions, they're older than me, and they're not able to figure things out, you know, with digital tools as easy as I can. So I'm mostly that person, even though I'm not like a, you know, expert level, but I can figure things out. So that was always handy.
Do you lack any skills? Do you wish that you could navigate, like, you know, the computer or your cell phone better? Cell phone. Okay.
When I think about people in my family, like my mom, you know, I would say I help her with everything. And sometimes I get frustrated with, you know, her not even trying. You know, and of course that's very layered. There's some insecurities there's some vulnerabilities. It's not just about not having access to technology, it's about not having access to education, period, you know? So looking at those intersections, knowing, you know, it's a real problem, but I wanted to like go beyond, you know, my workspace, my home. I wanted to know like, what does it really look like for the Bronx as a whole, you know, in terms of like limited digital access.
You got this other stuff, you know, you want to participate, yes, with me. I love it.
That's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. It's leading by example.
And I told my kids, I vote, my opinion counts, you know, so all of that. What's this?
So what do you... Doing this project was like very much, of course it was a new experience, but it was very much like an eye-opening experience in terms of like the information that was given, and in doing, of course, you know, the asynchronous work, like the independent work, and then the team work, like the group work, and coming to the meetings, I developed like a lot of more insight that I never, I guess, realized in terms of like digital equity and everything that we were doing in terms of the project. And I think it was really fun. Like, it was very much informative. It didn't really feel like work. It more so felt like I was doing like a passion project. And through that feeling, I was able to develop a lot more sensibility and knowledge on just both nonprofit work and how much digital equity, digital literacy, and digital access really does affect the world.
When I was younger, having digital access wasn't really a big thing as it is now. Like every kid has an iPad, every kid has an iPhone, almost every kid that I've seen. When I was younger, that wasn't really a thing because I would have assignments where it would be like, oh, you need to print out an essay, and I wouldn't have a printer at home. Or I would actually stay with my grandma sometimes. So that would be in Manhattan, and then they would give us assignments to write something, and we would have like this old computer that didn't really work, and it wasn't even connected to Wi-Fi. So we would just play like solitaire on it, or those free games that are just on there with no Wi-Fi. So we didn't really have access to that unless it was at school. What I'm doing in this project is serving the youth, doing focus groups, and getting to work collaboratively with the other fellows. And I really like how we're just coming together, putting these ideas together based on what we got from the community. We're not just making it up and just doing our own thing. We're trying to make this for the community, and we're all from the Bronx, so we know how it is.
What do I want to see for this city's future? I would love to see huge structural change in the city. I would love to see like projects like these where like we work on like the smaller scale to build like incremental change. I think Design by Community is really cool in that way, where we all get to like connect with each other. There's like a community built in there, but then we're also like offering like a resource to folks in the Bronx.
New York City is so huge, so eclectic, and so varied, and there's so much untapped potential here. And I know that every borough, every community is capable of caring for their own and providing for their own. They just need the infrastructure and the resources and the belief to do that.
So how do we help our community members in that sense? So it's a big feat, but that's what the plan is through this Makerspace, to offer courses, also offer free Wi-Fi in whichever way we can, whether it's teaming up with a CBO, having courses about how to build your own mesh network to empower young people and people in the community that, hey, you can build your own mesh network and have free Wi-Fi. So that's the whole plan.
So I want to see the Bronx bustling. I want to see us like, you know, how they say like bright light city of New York, like Manhattan, like not just Harlem. I'm talking about like, you know, say like a 42nd or like a Central Park. So I want the Bronx to have all the parks in the Bronx. So we got Katona Park, right where I work out on Fulton. So why that can't be like a national park or a state park, like, you know, where it has, you know, safety and resources and community, you know, gathering. I feel like I want more than just like fun. I want fun to be a part of it, but I want us to really be meaningful. I want to see it where we are respected as some of the other boroughs that we know that at times we are kind of dumped as like kind of like bummed out or whatever. So I want that to be a change narrative, and that we truly feel that we can be whatever it is that we work hard and set out to be.
Overall, I want unity for the Bronx. I want us to just get all the perks that every other borough in the city is getting. You know what I'm saying? We got old libraries, we got old spaces, we have there's so much out here that can be developed if we get the funding for it. So this is our cry for help. You know, the BX needs it. These Bronx kids, we've grown up in it. We've adjusted. We've adapted, and now it's time to put our foot down.
You know, in Brooklyn, I go to Bushwick, and I don't recognize it. You know, and it's scary because you have these, local elected officials making decisions, scary decisions that can cause our displacement, And my thing is, we're almost like, it's like trauma, There's so much trauma, so much emotional weight, and how do we manage our survival? I want us to survive, but I also want us to thrive too. I want us to be creative and have the space to do that. And so I envision a peaceful future for its current residents, I don't want us to have to move to another area, have to flee. That's too much in our history already. It's a brave act. I'm kind of hoping that Bronx residents will be able to do, they have the capacity to do so. But I hope we find the strength and so we can remain here, so there can be generations of Bronx residents, and they can see the products of their labor,
Above all else, I want to see more unity. I feel like the Bronx, not even just the Bronx, but the 5 boroughs in New York City in general, deserve more togetherness. But for the Bronx specifically, I think more people should really research how these things that they don't have access to, that the rest of the world wants or demands, how that the lack of access and the unfairness in that really affects them. There's a lot of people who got skills, who have the ability to obtain these skills, and they don't realize it because the only thing that bridges the gap, they don't have access to.
So what I would like to see for the Bronx's future in general is definitely more community building and being able to just see a lower crime rate in the Bronx, but also having more opportunities in the Bronx the same way there's opportunities in Manhattan, and also having more support for small businesses in the Bronx not to be taken over by bigger companies. Also having more healthcare access, more of those things, more pharmacies, because something I guess specifically I've noticed, especially in my area, they just got rid of a CVS, and that was the big CVS that everybody would go to, and then now there's no access for that. So just trying to rebuild those things, creating more spaces, using up those abandoned places that they just have in the Bronx that they forget, but also making sure it's for the community, not gentrifying it, not bringing outside people to our spaces.
So I'm editing myself
yeah.
And I'll edit a lot.
Edit my words, make me say something completely different.
The kind of work I'm doing for Design by the Community is creating the kind of work I'm doing for
Perfect. Outside, yeah, and then just walk in to sit.
It's like a dramatic
So instead of them going to 86th Street, they can come to
No, it's fine. Act natural. Okay.
What you taking a picture of?
It's a video. We're doing a documentary on.
We just don't.
No, it's perfect. It's more natural.